Look, if you don't want to end up like everyone else, then you've got to make the sacrifices that others just aren't willing to make. That is a piece of tough love advice I got back in my early 20s. And honestly, it's the absolute foundation of our explainer today. Welcome in. As a financial mentor, I see young adults falling into the exact same traps over and over again. So we're going to dismantle those completely fake get-rich-quick illusions right here, right now, and map out the real, hard-earned roadmap to wealth. It's a seriously frustrating question, isn't it? Why do most people stay completely broke while trying so desperately to look rich? I mean, you see it every single day on your feeds. This fake luxury lifestyle is just pushed relentlessly. And what does it do? It creates a massive amount of financial anxiety, especially when you're just starting out. It makes you feel like you're somehow falling behind if you aren't dripping in designer gear. But to build actual sustainable wealth, we have to pull back the curtain on this whole illusion. Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll look at the 2 career paths. Second, the fake rich trap. Third, leveraging your inner circle. Then we'll tackle ego and cognitive overload, move on to the ultimate accountability test, and finally, we'll talk about escaping the static zone. All right, first up, the 2 career paths. Imagine you grab a pretty boring but well-paid job right out of school. You stack some quick cash, your friends think you're killing it, your parents are thrilled. Right? That's path A. But here's the catch. Over time, your earning potential completely plateaus. Now look at path B. You take a challenging, lower-paying gig. Yeah, you might struggle to pay the bills at first, and sure, your friends might actually think you're falling behind. But this path prioritizes building skills and equity. I learned this the hard way. When I left school with 0 qualifications, I deliberately chose a low-paying job as a carpenter's apprentice. Why? Because I knew the skills I learned would be incredibly valuable later on. I was building my own personal Swiss Army knife of skills. So the crucial point here is, once you actually have those tools in your Swiss Army knife, you can aim for equity. That means owning a percentage of a business so you get a real cut of the profits. And hey, if you don't have the cash to buy equity, you can earn sweat equity by working for it. But to demand a piece of that pie, you've got to become worthy of it first. That means hyper-prioritizing modern, high-income skills like copywriting, video editing, or coding. If you just obsess over earning a quick paycheck early on just to buy, slightly nicer sneakers, you're literally going to make less money in the long run. Moving on to section 2, the fake rich trap. Picture this for a second. Someone is cruising through Dubai in a bright yellow rented Lamborghini, right? They're ordering a $500 salt-based steak coated in gold leaf, a steak that tastes exactly like a $30 one, by the way. Seems super successful, right? But the absolute truth is, if you're playing this social media flexing game early in your wealth journey, you are walking straight into a massive trap. The people living this way, they're usually financing those trips on credit cards that they'll spend months or even years paying off. They're living a lie, pretending to be rich while actively drowning in debt, all just to impress absolute strangers online. Crazy, right? Now, what's really interesting about this is the sheer reality behind the flex. It's actually shocking. 60% of American households literally cannot afford to buy a new car. The vast majority of people out there trying to look rich are actually buried under a mountain of debt. It's entirely smoke and mirrors, guys. To really hammer this point home, 37% of Americans can't even afford an unexpected $400 expense. Think about that. You absolutely cannot live like a king and build wealth at the exact same time. It doesn't work. The real strategy is so simple. Instead of buying depreciating items like flashy cars and designer clothes, you've got to invest in real assets, stocks, crypto, real estate, things that will actually increase in value and generate passive income, so that later on, you really can buy whatever you want without ever checking your bank balance. Which brings us to section 3, leveraging your inner circle. Look, you might be brilliant, but you will never, ever outcompete a talented group of people working together. Period. Even Elon Musk, who kind of looks like this solo rogue genius on the surface, didn't achieve everything single-handedly. He was part of the brain trust that launched PayPal. And when it sold for $1.5 billion, that collaborative group, who we now call the PayPal Mafia, went on to start YouTube, LinkedIn, Yelp, and SpaceX. They collaborated, they invested in each other's ideas, and they shared advice. Going solo is a trap. You need a team. But okay, what if you aren't trying to build the next SpaceX today? What if you just want a profitable side hustle right now? Well, here is a highly actionable strategy for you. Older business owners are often completely lost when it comes to online management tools, things like invoicing, team management, or just building a decent website. As a young adult, you have a massive inherent tech advantage. So your play is to find these overwhelmed business owners and literally bring their operations into the 21st century. By doing things they simply cannot do themselves, you're providing immense value, and you're going to make serious cash in the process. All right, let's talk about the mental game in Section 4, Ego and Cognitive Overload. Do you ever feel like you're being pulled in a million different directions? Friends, family, TikTok, everyone has an opinion on whether you should start a side hustle, get a safe 9 to 5, or, travel the world to find yourself. The sheer volume of these potential paths creates what we call cognitive overload. Your brain literally cannot cope with that much conflicting information, and this leads to severe mental fatigue. It makes you completely unable to take action. People might look at you and think, oh, they're just lazy. But the truth is, your brain is just locked in an overwhelming panic of decision paralysis. Let's move to how this builds, because to cure this paralysis, you desperately need a framework. First, you've got to start with your ultimate end destination in mind. You might not know exactly what it is down to the letter, but get a decent idea. Second, work backwards to map out the steps. And third, and this is absolutely crucial, ruthlessly filter out the noise. Cut out the general opinions of well-meaning friends and family and only listen to expert inputs that align directly with your specific goal. Now, part of filtering out that noise requires you to drop your ego. Arrogant people, they think they already know everything. They focus so much on the big picture that they skip the crucial, gritty, small steps required to actually get there. True wealth requires the humility to realize you do not know it all. Think of it like the iceberg principle. What you currently know is just the tiny little tip of the iceberg visible above the water. That massive, dark chunk underwater, that is the critical knowledge you still need to learn. Arrogance is a silent wealth killer, guys, because it convinces you that you're too smart to listen and way too good to learn. This leads us right into Section 5, the ultimate accountability test. I want you to really listen to this. The man who blames others has a long way on his journey to go. The man who blames himself is halfway there. The man who blames no one has already arrived. That ancient wisdom right there, it sets the exact stage for a critical mindset shift that you have to make today. And this brilliantly illustrates the choice you have every single day. You can pick up the magnifying glass, which means hyper-focusing on everybody else's faults. You say the system is rigged, your boss hates you, the algorithm is against you. Those small excuses snowball into a disastrous habit of passing the blame. Or you can pick up the mirror. When you look in the mirror, you focus entirely on your own thoughts, your own actions, and the inputs you can actually control. To be the person who has already arrived, you absolutely must put down that magnifying glass and pick up the mirror. Finally, Section 6, escaping the static zone. Did you know over half of Brits refuse to leave their comfort zone, even though almost half of them fear they're going to regret it one day? Listen, expanding your comfort zone isn't a one-and-done deal. It's an infinite, lifelong process. Just look at my own journey. I stepped out of traditional schooling to become an apprentice. I wasn't satisfied, so I pushed into completely unfamiliar side hustles. I took a massive, scary bank loan to start my own business. I traveled to China to overcome cultural barriers and find manufacturers. And even later in life, I expanded again, launching a YouTube channel at age 53 to help young adults like you. You have to continually claim new territory. So let's lock in this mental checklist before we wrap up. If you truly want to stop being broke, you must implement these core shifts. 1. Prioritize skills and equity over early cash. 2. Invest in real assets, not a fake luxury lifestyle. 3. Collaborate with talented people instead of grinding solo. 4. Filter out the noise and only listen to expert inputs. And 5. Drop your ego, put down that magnifying glass, and look in the mirror. That space right outside your current boundaries, it is totally infinite, but you have to go out and actively claim it for yourself. So my final question to you is this. What is the very next space outside your comfort zone that you are going to claim? Take that accountability, take immediate action, and start building your real wealth journey today. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Catch you next time.